as a member of parliament from Orissa, Jay Panda has been one of India's most articulate and outspoken MPs. He's never hesitated to speak out on issues that have mattered to him and has regularly taken part in parliamentary debates. But today he finds himself at a political crossroads, particularly because we have a crucial assembly election coming up in his home state in Orissa next year. He has now been suspended from the BJD. He's just resigned as a Lok Sabha MP, and now it's not clear what the future holds for him politically, but whatever he does decide to do will be significant in the run-up to the elections. Jay Panda joining us on NDTV this evening. Jay, thank you for speaking to us. And first of all, we want to express our condolences once again. You just lost your father. It's actually been quite a difficult time for you, hasn't it, personally and professionally in recent weeks?
Yes, and thank you for the condolences. My decision to quit the BJD was based on this last straw, when neither the BJD party president nor anybody came to pay their last respects to a man, my father, who was not involved with my politics but had been a very close friend and associate of the late Biju Patnaik, after which this party is named. But that was only the last straw. There have been a lot of problems over the past 3 or 4 years, and particularly for the last 1 year, I had started speaking out in public after the party president, Naveen Patnaik, himself asked in public for an introspection after we had a setback electorally in the Panchayat elections. But instead of being patted on the back for actually doing that, for having an introspection, I was targeted, I was humiliated, and I was physically assaulted. So it was both political and personal, that it came to such a point that it was no longer tenable for me to continue in that party.
Jay, you've made a very serious allegation about a physical assault. Tell us more about that. What exactly happened? That's quite a statement that you've just made.
Well, it's not just an allegation. It was last year in May, and it was covered on live television by all the regional Odia language television channels. Ever since the party turned on me, I've been obstructed and problems created. But in this particular instance, the local party members held a press conference 2 days ahead of my inaugurating a large drinking water project from MP local area funds. And in that press conference, they threatened violence against me. And I nevertheless said that I would not be cowed down because people needed these projects. And when the inauguration happened, there were several platoons of police there, but they stood by. They did not take any action when stones and rocks and eggs were hurled at me. My shoulder was damaged, for which I'm still receiving treatment. So it was quite shocking. It was on live television. It was covered in the regional media extensively last year. And it was shocking to me that the party president neither called nor inquired about my safety and well-being after that incident.
Jay, why did things deteriorate so badly with Naveen Patnaik? Because, and I'm going to ask this question, there have been rumors for a very long time, certainly speculation for a very long time, that you had been flirting with the BJP, and that was part of the reason that Naveen Patnaik was so irked. You have endorsed the BJP's position on a lot of issues, etc. So, is there any truth to that you were in a sense getting feelers from the other side, from the BJP, and that's what led to the deterioration in your relationship?
No, this is a complete travesty of the truth, and let me point out the facts. I have been involved with the party from day one, when it was founded 21 years ago, and I have stood with the party and with the founding president Naveen Patnaik through thick and thin, helping to manage many crises, such as when in 2002 the parliamentary party split, and another example would be 2012, when there was a rebellion from inside, and many other such examples. The reality is this: it was my job to keep good relations with all national parties. It was my job especially to keep good relations with whichever party was in government in Delhi, because of Odisha's interests, because of BJD's interests. So in a sense, if there were allegations that I was flirting with any one party, I was flirting with all parties. I have friends in all parties, but I was certainly not acting at their behest. Now, regarding policy positions, I think it's important to clarify something. The reality is most of these policy positions I have been publicly holding and writing in my op-eds and speaking on channels, including with you on this channel, such as doing away with VVIP privileges, such as using technology like Aadhaar for cash transfers to tackle corruption, and many others. It just so happens that within the last 4 years, many of these started getting implemented, and it would be hypocritical for me to back away from my own policies which I have been advocating just because any one party, which is not my party, is implementing it. So that's the truth.
So then why did it come to this point where, things have got so ugly personally between you and Naveen Patnaik? What is the trigger for that?
Well, first it's important to clarify that the ugliness is one-sided. I have never uttered any comment against the party president or the party itself. But you have asked a valid question, and I think it's important to answer. The BJD government in Odisha is now in its 4th term, in fact, in its 19th year. And for the first 14, 15 years, I had been very proud to be a part of it because I believed in the policies on which it was founded, which was transparency. It was supposed to be against criminality and corruption. And many of the policy decisions implemented in the first dozen or 14 years was something I was very proud of. Things only changed in this term, in this 4th term. And this is widely acknowledged in India, in Odisha, that there is a new coterie that has taken a stranglehold on the party and on the party president. Ever since I started speaking about it, at least half a dozen other senior Odia politicians cutting across the spectrum have spoken about this. And it's a tragedy that the party has veered away from its original ideals. If you look at the sharp rise in crimes against women and children, much higher than national average. If you look at the corruption allegations, now Naveen Patnaik was known in his first 3 terms for taking strict and quick action against corruption, even involving senior ministers and senior bureaucrats. But it's been exactly the opposite in the last 3 or 4 years. It's a real tragedy. And, because I have started speaking out against it, the coterie, obviously, which controls the party today, has taken action against me.
There were many questions raised about you as well, and your companies and your businesses in Odisha, that you defaulted on loans, etc. a few years ago. Has that now sort of been set at rest?
No, this is a rehashed allegation that keeps cropping up. For many years, I have refuted these allegations and put it in the public domain. Anybody can access my clarification refutations. It's in the public domain. There has never been any malfeasance. There has never been any of the kind of allegations that have been made. And I also want to say something else. I have served 18 years in the Parliament of India. I have worked very hard to build a credible track record. No one, no civil servant, no politician, either at the national level or at the state level, can ever claim that Jay Panda asked for any favors or tried to secure any financial or fiscal benefits for himself or his family members' business interests. So that's a very unfair allegation. And anybody that has any questions, I refer them to the many refutations I have put out in the public domain for many, many years.
But Jay, you talked about the tremendous anti-incumbency that Naveen Patnaik would be facing, which is natural since he has been Chief Minister for so long. Despite that, though, the BJD actually won a pretty convincing victory in an assembly by-election just a few months ago, an election which you felt would actually go the other way. What did that election, you think, indicate to you? I mean, to political commentators, it indicates that Naveen Patnaik may be down, but he's certainly not out in Odisha.
No, I have never made any predictions on any by-election or any other election. But yes, this recent by-election a few months ago was won handsomely by the BJD. Now, I don't know how much importance to place on a single assembly by-election, but the reality is this. Until last year, for the previous 17 years, the BJD kept winning election after election, and in every election, whether national or state or panchayat PRI elections, its vote share used to increase. For the first time last year, there was a significant reduction in the number of seats that the BJD won in the panchayat elections across the state, which is why there was a bit of consternation, and that's when the party president Naveen Patnaik spoke out in public seeking seeking introspection. Now, I had been talking internally in the party for a couple of years about its deviation from original principles. And since last year, after the party president sought a public introspection, I started giving my analysis in public. The reality is, obviously, there are some things that the BJD has done well, otherwise it would not have won 4 successive terms. But what bothers me is this. 18, 19 years ago, we started out being rock bottom of all the states on most parameters such as primary health, primary education, etc. Now, we have had some improvement, but tragically not enough. If you look at those parameters today, on many of them we are still rock bottom. On some of them we are second from bottom. I think the best is something like 4th from the bottom. I think Odisha deserves better.
Well, let me ask you then, Jay, are you going to be joining the BJP? Is that the next step?
No, that's a common question that keeps getting asked. Look, I have not left the BJD happily. It is not something I had intended to. It's been quite traumatic for me. I came from a non-political background, and I have worked hard for the BJD, for Odisha, and in building my own track record, which I believe has some credibility. Now, this trauma that I have gone through is quite, it's something that I'm still coming to grips with. And, it's not, politics is not the be-all or end-all. I have the rest of my life. I can serve the people and Odisha's interests in many different ways. But if it has, and I will have to very careful thought, because this is a major turning point in my life. I'm getting a lot of advice from other politicians, friends of mine in different parties. I'm also consulting people, my constituents and people across Odisha. I spend a lot of time in the field. I have been to each and every one of my several hundred panchayats in my constituency. And keep in mind, every Indian constituency like my Kendrapada is the size of a small European country like Estonia or Slovenia. So it is important for me to consult these people and people across Odisha.
So you're actually considering walking away from politics? Because that's quite something. You're actually thinking about leaving politics altogether, possibly?
I'm considering all options. I'm considering all options, political and non-political. I'm giving it a thought, because this is not something I had anticipated or planned for. And it's really important for me not to take any snap decisions or jump into the next phase of my life. I need to consider all the implications before going forward.
If I could be, be a little more blunt and ask you that, is that partly because you haven't got as warm signals from the BJP perhaps as you would have liked, that perhaps you expected them to be more welcoming of you into their party, give you a significant role to play ahead of the elections? Does this sort of weighing your options have anything to do with that?
This has absolutely nothing to do with it. Let me again reiterate. I think some people have started speculating in a similar fashion, but let me make it very clear. Over the past 18 years, I have built friendships with all political parties. I have very close friends at senior levels of all political parties. They have been very good to me in terms of giving me honest feedback, honest advice, and an assessment of the political landscape that I am likely to face. Beyond that, I don't want to humor that kind of speculation. I'll only say that kind of speculation has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with my analysis of the road forward.
Has the BJP even reached out to you, very honestly, to say that come and join us?
Very honestly, I have spoken to friends in many different parties, and have been comforted by their approach towards me, and that's all I will say.
So Jay, let me ask you before we let you go, since you are weighing your options, etc., and honestly in Odisha one can't see which other political force you could join given the Congress's dismal state there, but what is your sort of analysis of the overall political situation right now? What do you think the national mood is in the country, given these bi-poll defeats that the BJP has faced, what has happened in Karnataka? What's your reading of that?
First of all, I have a difference of opinion about Odisha compared to what you just said. The reality is that the BJD, which gradually grew to become the largest party in Odisha, has somewhat diminished but remains the largest party. Over the past 3 or 4 years, the BJP has grown and has now become a clear number 2 if you look at recent elections, by-elections and panchayat elections. But neither should the Congress be written off, because it has a presence in every village. It has got a new PCC president who's suddenly made the party very active. So I don't think Odisha's political outlook should be a fait accompli of any kind. I think a lot can happen between now and the election. Now, you asked me about national elections. Again, clearly the BJP has come into pole position. It is the largest party in the country today and governs the largest number of states. Now, this talk about a so-called Mahagathbandhan of all other parties coming together if that were to happen, it would be significant. I think it should be taken seriously, because there is the arithmetic of the vote shares of these parties coming together. But I think there would be at least 2 or 3 challenges that need to be faced. Number one, it's one thing to have such alliances at isolated elections, by-elections and state elections, but to have it during a general election all across the country for every other party to come together is quite a challenge. And if every other party doesn't come together,
it's not easy.
See what happened in Gujarat. Almost everyone came together, but they couldn't win. And there are personalities and egos and ideologies to resolve. And I think they will such an alliance will also need to put up a credible alternative leadership face to counter Prime Minister Modi, who today is undoubtedly the most popular politician in the country.
Do you think the opposition has a credible face? Do you think Rahul Gandhi is a credible face?
As of today, I do not think a potential united opposition has a credible face. Now, can that happen? Well, in politics, anything is possible. But I think there are major challenges to even put together such a united opposition all across the country. I think that's the first and more fundamental challenge they will have to deal with.
All right. Well, Jay Panda, thank you for speaking to us today. We wish you luck as you decide on what to do with your future, whether you decide to stay in politics or decide to take the non-political route. But thank you for talking to us today. Thanks.